When you were the Attorney General in Florida, after the Parkland shooting, my understanding is you moved to ban gun sales to people under 21. Is that a position that you would take now as the Attorney General? You also moved to enact red flag laws, allowing a judge temporarily to confiscate weapons when he or she viewed that the person was at risk of hurting himself or someone else. Is that a position you would continue to support now? I think there's no argument that ghost guns have any, appropriate use on the street. They only help criminals avoid prosecution. Would you support a legislative ban on ghost guns?
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's a beautiful day out here. I'm still recovering from sunburn-orama. Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney General, yesterday was in front of the House Appropriations Committee discussing her plan, amongst other things. She was talking about the DOJ budget for this year, but she laid out how she's going to combine ATF with the DEA, and that's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the Drug Enforcement Agency, for those who don't play the three-letter game. It's not a good thing, guys and gals. It sounds, the way she's gonna word things, it sounds great, but it's not. I'm gonna tell you why. Before I jump into it, guys, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Attorneys on Retainer. If you carry a firearm for self-defense, and that's probably most of you watching this, you need a legal team that actually understands our rights. AOR is the only law firm in America that specializes in self-defense cases. That is all they do. If you can reasonably and in good faith assert that you acted in self-defense of yourself or others, AOR will cover you. Don't forget, they've added a bunch of stuff. They've added membership for business entities, commercial liability coverage, civil liability coverage, red flag and emergency order coverage, expungement of records and sealed records coverage for members, and there's a ton of new online self-defense education and training and much more to come. Guys, AOR has your back, from red flag orders to self-defense claims in every single state, all 50. Yes, your state too. Plus, if you join now, you can lock in your pricing until 2030. And that's big because adding these extra benefits costs money and prices will be going up. So learn more at the link down below and use my code to save $50 off your individual plan, the sign-up fee, and $25 off your family plan sign-up fee, all by using my code GNG at the link down below. But you gotta do it today to lock in your pricing. All right, in the opening I told you how dangerous it could be for us to have two mega powers in federal law enforcement join together. Now, like I said, Pam Bondi was in front of the House Appropriations Committee yesterday, and it was painful for me to watch this. I'm going to show you just a couple snippets so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But I want you to see how she's answering these questions, because any politician, she's a politician, Pam Bondi, she was elected to positions of attorneys general in Florida and now the U.S. Attorney General. Any politician, you got to take what they say with a little bit of salt, and you got to find where they're filibustering, if you will. And Pam did a lot of it yesterday. I want you to watch it here, but I want you to tell me in the comments below, do you think what she's saying is good or what she's saying is dangerous? Remember, what she's proposed, well, what's happening, and she's not proposing, it's happening now, is the ATF is going to join with the DEA to make one happy law enforcement team. And that would bring a lot of problems. I'll tell you more here. Watch these clips, see if you get enraged like I did, and then let's talk about it.
I am a career prosecutor, and I believe in keeping America safe, making America safe. First, what we're doing is ATF is going to be brought over with DEA. Everyone knows, everyone sitting up here, guns and drugs go together. They go together. We're going to make it more efficient. What I will tell you will not be happening is ATF agents will not be knocking on the doors of legal gun owners in the middle of the night asking them about their guns. They're going to be out on the streets. If I can finish, They're going to be
Well,
out on the streets.
I have three
No,
minutes.
You asked me a question.
I did, and
You asked me a question,
and you
and I'm
haven't
gonna
answered
answer
my
it.
question.
So they're going to be out on the streets working
You
hand
haven't
in hand
answered
with
my question.
DEA
You
to
haven't
violate.
answered. Mr. Chairman, I'd like an answer to my question. And the question is not being answered. How many ATF law enforcement officers and industry operations investigators do you anticipate will be lost to attrition as a result of the funding reduction you are proposing? You are proposing a 26% cut to ATF for fiscal year 2026, as well as a 4.4% cut to DEA. So you're going to merge the two agencies together, and then you're going to shortchange their resources, so neither one of them will be able to do the job that they have been designed to do. You've got a 34% cut to the high-intensity drug trafficking areas program, no dedicated money at all for the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. So, my view, it's fair to say that the Trump administration proposal shortchanges federal efforts to stop illegal gun trafficking and federal efforts to stop the flow of dangerous illegal drugs like fentanyl.
As I was attempting to answer your question very calmly, unlike you,
Excuse me,
what I was
Madam
saying,
Attorney General. Answer yes or no. Tell me what the numbers are. I don't want to hear all of your filibuster about
So-
this. Go ahead, please, tell us the numbers.
So we are reorganizing. ATF agents want to be out on the street.
Okay,
working
let me
with
answer the
DEA
question for you.
agents.
I'm going to answer it for you. Page, you know, Mr. Chairman, you give me a certain amount of time, and I have a high respect for you, but I don't have to listen, nor do my colleagues have to listen to a filibuster when it's a simple question. But I have an answer to your question. It's page 146 of the department's fiscal year 2026 budget, and the performance summary explicitly says, and let me quote, ATF will eliminate 541 industry operation investigators, reducing ATF's capacity to regulate the firearms and explosive industries by approximately 40% in fiscal year 2026. ATF will perform fewer regulatory inspections. And the department summary goes on to say, and let me quote, ATF anticipates a reduction of approximately 284 support personnel and 186 agents based on historical attrition patterns, and these personnel cuts will impact ATF across various functions, unquote. If the capacity to regulate firearms industry is reduced by 40%, if you are losing 186 ATF law enforcement agents, on top of that, it is clear the direction you are headed with this budget, and that's what it is, isn't it? The proposal will weaken our ability to stop gun trafficking, and it will greatly reduce ATF support for state and local law enforcement that helps them prevent and solve violent crimes. It's a bad proposal.
Do you want to hear my answer in 3 seconds? You mentioned regulatory functions. We will not be having ATF agents go to the doors of gun owners in the middle of the night asking them about their guns, period. They will be out on the streets with DEA, guns and drugs.
How many
go
are
together.
gone?
It will be attrition. We are not firing agents. They will be working.
How many
with
have taken
DEA.
attrition?
Can I tell you that they all want to be on the streets? They want to be doing their jobs. They want to be
But you're getting them
seizing
off
guns.
the streets.
They want
You're getting
to.
them
We're
off the
putting
streets.
them on the
And-
streets.
and-
They want to be working with DEA.
You are getting them off
We
the
will be
streets. There is no
efficient.
clear, and Mr.
We will
Chairman,
be
I yield back my
efficient.
time. I yield back my time. Let's get some answers here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. You are, in my mind, a breath of fresh air to our Department of Justice.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for your dedication to the Constitution and for equal justice under the law. I am sorely impressed with your experience and how you have handled the Department of Justice so far. As we all know, under the Biden-Harris administration, the Department of Justice, FBI, and ATF were dangerously weaponized to target President Trump and everyday Americans, tactics more fitting of an authoritarian regime than a constitutional republic. From politically persecuting President Trump, then President Biden's chief political rival, to going after pro-life advocates like Mark Houck The actions of the Attorney General Garland, Director Wray, and the DOJ leadership were unacceptable and unconstitutional, in my opinion. That's why I was very encouraged to see the President's FY26 budget commit to ending the weaponization within the Department of Justice and the FBI. And so, can you elaborate for me, how has the Trump administration's DOJ shifted away from politically motivated investigations and refocused on its core mission, prosecuting the most dangerous criminals? And you mentioned that a little bit in your opening remarks. So if you can focus on the moving away part, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman Clyde, and thank you for that. And also, our budget includes $1.2 billion and 2,444 agents for ATF. And those agents will be on the street with DEA. And thank you for letting me answer that question.
Yes, ma'am.
And we are prioritizing resources addressing illegal firearms and traffickers, and we will reduce unnecessary regulatory efforts, including what I just said about the weaponization. That's how ATF, I believe, was weaponized in the prior administration. Also, they were arresting peaceful protesters, the Biden administration, at abortion facilities. No longer. They targeted Catholics at church services. No longer. No longer will parents be arrested at school board meetings because they care about their children. That has ended under this department. That's why Donald Trump won the popular vote and the Electoral College by overwhelming margins. He made that crystal clear, and that's what's happening now in our country. That weaponization has ended. These ATF agents will be on the street fighting drugs. I have been a career prosecutor. ATF has taken thousands of guns off the streets since January 20th, working hand in hand with DEA. Drugs and guns go together. Core function, no more targeting and weaponizing our citizens by any of the agencies.
Thank you. Thank you for that
Congressman.
commitment.
Thank you.
I was delighted to see that the Department of Justice's fiscal year 26 budget also included a dedicated fund for a firearm rights restoration initiative. Can you describe this initiative a little bit and any other steps that your department is taking to restore the Second Amendment rights to Americans who are unlawfully or unjustly stripped of them by prior administrations? Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yes, Congressman, and that is the pardon power, of course, falls with the president, and he has been doing many pardons on that topic, and he will continue to do that, I am certain. Also, one other thing about ATF is our seizure of firearms is up 33% from this time last year.
Thank you.
Wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about the merger of DEA and the ATF, and kind of, if you'd elaborate on that. You've talked a little bit about it already. The one thing that I think is very important is that the ATF and federal firearms licensees work together, because truly FFLs are the front line when it comes to illegal purchases and just the information that is out there, and we can help each other as long as we have a good relationship with each other. And during the last administration, it was a terrifying relationship. I mean, you had the zero tolerance against federal firearms licenses. I'm sorry, we're all human. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? And they're not intentional, they're just mistakes. And when you can lose your livelihood and you can lose your business and your employees can lose their jobs over simple mistakes, that's a real problem, especially when, if you think about federal firearms licensees, they're the pathway to the Second Amendment of the Constitution. They enable individual participation in the protection of liberty. I mean, that's what federal firearms licensees do. So I think it's really important to have that critical relationship between ATF and the federal firearms licensees. And, when the inspectors, when the ATF went from the Treasury to the Department of Justice, and the inspection side of it, when the IOIs, when they were, industry operations inspectors, when they became industry operations investigators, okay? You investigate crime, you really inspect records. That was concerning to me. So my thought was maybe we could move the IOIs to the Department of Commerce, but just would get your thought on that.
Yeah, and Congressman, that's the first time I've heard about that. I would love to meet with you and learn more
Great.
about that.
I look
But
forward
thank you
to it.
for asking about the ATF DEA merger. In the world in which we live, bureaucracy has been around for a very long time. And just because things have been done one way for decades and decades doesn't mean that is the most efficient way to do them in the future. And that I'm a career prosecutor. I care about ATF. I went to ATF's memorial service. We are doing everything we can to put those ATF agents on the street where they want to be. Anyone in modern day history, the years of prohibition are over. ATF, they want to be on the street. They want to be working hand in hand with DEA. That's what they do. No redundancy, no repeat of investigations. They are going to be working together, and that's what this reorganization does. And they're all going to be, it's going to be a great marriage between those two agencies. They're working hand in hand on task forces already. Now they will be working under one umbrella, and it's going to be great for our country.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
yield back.
And the performance of fewer regulatory inspections. I had gun dealers in my district who needed those inspections to take place. And important findings have been made, certainly with respect to tracking crime guns and cracking down on gun dealers who are working illicitly. I'm not saying they all do. I mean, many of them operate in the right way, but the only way to track it down is through inspections that have to be aggressive. And by the way, even under the current regime or the previous regime, I think some of them didn't get inspections for maybe every 10 years or so. So it wasn't like it's a constant harassment piece. But I've got some folks here in the corner of the hearing room who are from my district. Moms Demand Action, DMV Mothers Like Me, Women's Missionary Society. I met with them a few weeks ago, and the concern was the issue of gun violence on our streets and the desire to make sure that the federal presence continues to push hard to make sure we close those cases. You're reducing resources, you're reducing the number of agents, as Mr. Patel said. That's moving in the opposite direction. What response would you give to them with respect to the steps that you're taking to make sure not only that we stay safe, but we get even safer and do even more to get violent offenders off the street and get the guns off the street before the violent offenders get them?
So first, Congressman Ivey, you're a former prosecutor, and I'm smiling because I could see that in some of your questions. Thank you for those questions. I'm going to try to answer them all in order of how you ask them. You ask about the FBI, our budget, and Director Patel clarified that in front of the Senate, I think, and our budget includes $10.1 billion, 12,926 agents for the FBI.
I think clarification would be gentle. It was a complete flip-flop on what he said when he was here.
So
And he was asked 3 times by
prioritized.
Ms. DeLauro just to make sure that he was right about what he had said when he was
They
testifying.
prioritized realignment of personnel to the field to carry out national security, which you just talked about, intelligence, criminal law enforcement, and criminal justice missions.
Can I do
The budget.
this?
Wait, can I just keep?
If-
I only
if-
have 34 seconds to
I've
answer you,
got
and I
3
really
quick
want to
questions
answer.
for you, and I'd love
You're
to get.
asking 3 questions, and you haven't let me answer one.
I'd
I
love to
wanna
get your
talk about
answers in
Niven.
writing. Quick questions.
Niven,
When you were the Attorney General in Florida,
Chairman, can I
you
answer the
offered-
question?
You offered, after the Parkland shooting, I believe this is my time, under the rules, and I had,
Stop the clock.
can we stop the clock?
Stop the clock at a different.
Mr. Chairman,
To a filibuster.
what I just said was, if you could submit your answers in writing, that would be great. I don't think I've made any kind of statement that's been accusatory with respect to her or her professional reputation. There's been no attack on her. These were just questions that were asked. I'm seeking the answers in writing, which would be great. But I have a couple others that I'd like to ask too, and we'll do them on. No, it hasn't. You cut me off when there were 30 seconds left. Yeah. So. Well, that's true too. A couple of you all went over like a minute and a half.
Over almost 2 minutes.
I just would like my 30 seconds back. And then if she can submit answers in writing, that'll be fine. But, but I want to get these questions in while she's here.
Go ahead.
I want to ask the questions and she can submit the answers. This is my 5 minutes. I get to do it the way I want to do it. Under the committee rules and under the House rules. These are my 5 minutes. And as I said, I have not been disrespectful to this witness. I have not. Or,
Like you did. I feel like you did.
okay. When you were the Attorney General in Florida, after the Parkland shooting, my understanding is you moved to ban gun sales to people under 21. Is that a position that you would take now as the Attorney General? I have a bill, H.R. 2368, which does something like that. I would be interested in if you'd be willing to co-sponsor or support that bill. You also moved to enact red flag laws, allowing a judge temporarily to confiscate weapons when he or she viewed that the person was at risk of hurting himself or someone else. Is that a position you would continue to support now? And the last one is ghost guns. Ghost guns, I don't think you took a position on it back when you were the AG in Florida, but we've had 2 bills come through here in the Congress, all Democratic co-sponsors. I think there's no argument that ghost guns have any, appropriate use on the street. They only help criminals avoid prosecution. Would you support a legislative ban on ghost guns? And with that, I yield back.
Can you discuss how merging the ATF with the DEA will streamline their activities while ensuring their critical and unique capabilities are maintained?
Yes, absolutely. And yes, the National Center for Explosive Training and Research at Redstone, it's pretty remarkable what they do. They oversee the canine operations, I believe, as well as the criminal profiling, the explosives, the arson investigations, and I look forward to working with you. I look forward to visiting that. I really want to go to that facility. There are no cuts planned for that. And that's where ATF and DEA, again, can partner together. The drugs and the guns go together. Those agents will be working hand in hand. The bureaucracy at the top will be gone. There will be no redundancy. They will be working hand in hand at that facility and many others throughout our country. Thank you.
All right, so you've watched the clips, and I'm leaving it up for you to tell me how you feel, make up your own mind, but I'm going to tell you what angers some people who watch this. I am straightforward. I call it like I see it. It's been a strength of me since I was a little boy. I don't subscribe to that game where people idolize politicians, whether it's a president or a local school board member. I don't care who they are. I don't care what their name is. I don't care if they're famous or not. I care about them doing what's best for the United States Constitution and following through on campaign promises. And I know campaign promises, 90% of that is just bullshit lies so that they get into office. But I'm one of those people who pushes back on them, whether they do something good or bad. I'll call it out. If it's good, I'll give them credit. If it's bad, I'll tear them to the ground. And Pam Bondi here is following up on Donald Trump's, it was the budget that he submitted, and the version for the DOJ, wants to combine these 2 agencies. And I'm going to tell you, as someone who was in law enforcement for over 2 decades, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. By effectively downsizing or absorbing the ATF into another agency, Pam is saying, oh, we're putting them back on the street and they're not going to go check on gun owners in the middle of the night to check on their guns. Really, though? Really? Because what's going to stop the next president from turning it back into what Joe Biden did, right? You have to, and that's what we're trying to do here in this one big, beautiful bill with destroying the NFA. You have to destroy the laws that allow ATF to do what they've done over the last couple of years, especially when they were weaponized against us, going after FFLs with the zero tolerance, going after us. You can't have that lower unless you register every part of it serialize everything. You can't have that slidey plastic thing because we think it turns you into Rambo. You can't have these trigger things because we think that turns you into Chuck Norris. And it just keeps going and going. And if you've been watching the channel, you understand. But I'm telling you, from my own experience, the DEA is much more fleshed out, if you will. More SWAT teams, bigger SWAT teams, better funding for those teams. ATF going in there doesn't really make them anything less than they are. In fact, it makes them a little more powerful. I'm telling you, out of experience, I've done cases with ATF, I've done cases with DEA, I've done cases with the U.S. Marshal Service, I've done cases with the FBI, I've done cases with JTTFs. I've done it a lot in my career. So when I tell you that this is a huge red flag and this is a huge mistake, I hope that you take it at face value for someone with inside experience. But I'm just letting you know what I think, what I know, what I've seen. I want you to tell me what you think of this. Is what Pam and Don are presenting going to be good for us going down the road? Sound off down below. I wanted you to see this stuff. I wanted you to see the important parts of it so that you didn't have to watch the whole thing and have your brain start bleeding like mine did. But subscribe to the channel if you want to stay in the know with everything that goes on in the Second Amendment, including long, drawn-out, boring-ass meetings where our Second Amendment is definitely on the line. So please help the channel, like the video. If it angered you, like the video. If you got something out of it, like the video. If you think Pam Bondi is not as pro-gun as she says, like the video. If you think Pam Bondi is the best thing since sliced bread, like the video. Helps the algorithm here. I appreciate y'all. I look forward to hearing what you say down below. And as always, stay safe, stay free, America, guys and gals. Carry your guns, especially with all the things going on overseas. We have, people in this country who may or may not be here lawfully and legally, who are sympathizers for what's going on overseas, and just protect yourself and get AOR to protect yourself if you ever have to protect yourself or others. I love y'all. Be safe. Have a good one. Take care.